So I'm very excited about this moment. I'm going to be introducing the guest speaker for tonight. That's no other person than Mr. Gerry Lougheed.
Gerry Lougheed.
Please.
I don't know about you, but they keep saying put their hands together, and I think we should put our hands together for these MCs. They are And I know that, in fact, Gerry is a person that you cannot say no to. Any of us that have worked with him, I think, in fact, Gerry, I found you a kitchen on Canada Day so that you could cook some food for the Canada Day festivals. We talk about housing, we talk about clinics, we talk about education, we talk about politics, we talk about policing, and everybody knows that you've been acknowledging the leadership. But I want a standing ovation for Gerry and his leadership over the last several years. Gerry, we love you. Now, those of you that have suffered through these speeches over the last several years know that when I begin, I do what? Good evening.
Good evening.
There's more volume at the funeral home. Let's try that again. You are Nigerians. I heard this is Nigeria, and we got a whole bunch of wannabe Nigerians. Let's do that again. Good evening.
Good evening.
That's a lot better. That's a Nigerian standard. There's no doubt about that. So we gather tonight to celebrate the blessing of the Nigerian Association of Sudbury. We have people in this room that have very much thinking heads and working hands and feeling hearts that truly have made the city of Sudbury greater culturally, socially, economically, and spiritually. But in fact, Gerry, I think you're likely wrong. The fact of the matter is we need to follow your example with regard to being courageous to make homes. If you think about it in the, yes, apply anytime you want, folks. It really makes the speech go a lot better because I'm wrestling a head cold. So on this basis, and your journey from womb to tomb, or for those of you that follow CSI, your journey from sperm to worm, I might suggest that in fact the journey took a challenge when you came to Canada. And you made Canada your second home. You took the green and white of the Nigerian flag and you brought that to fly in harmony with the red and white flag of Canada. And for that we are all indebted with regard to that harmony and our togetherness. Brian and Paul and Ravi can tell you this joke, but I like telling it more, so I will tell you the joke. In 1969, a significant thing happened in the history of humankind. In 1969, a man walked on the moon for the very, very first time. And there was an elderly couple that had been married for 50 years that were watching that on their television screens. They were sitting in their easy boy chairs, walking away, watching the television, and the space capsule came on the television screen. The elderly woman looked over at her husband and she saw he was sweating profusely. She said, "Honey, honey, are you okay?" And he said, "Hush, hush, you're witnessing history." And with that, the space capsule door opened up. There was Neil Armstrong in the doorway. The elderly woman looked over at her husband, and she was not only sweating profusely, he was shaking in the chair. And she said, "Honey, honey, are you sure you're okay?" And he said, "Hush, hush, you're witnessing history." And with that, Neil Armstrong stood on that moonscape for the very first time, said those politically incorrect words, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." And the woman looked over at her husband, and he slipped off the chair, and he was convulsing on the floor. And she said, "Honey, honey, we got to get you to the hospital." And he said, "Hush, hush, you just witnessed history." He said, do you remember 50 years ago on our wedding night when I rolled over to you and said, how about some of that wild sex? And you said to me, when a man walks on the moon. I will tell you this, that I believe that Gerry's parents in his hometown of Udu-Umu in Nigeria, if you would have said to them, your son is going to form and found the Nigerian Association in Canada to empower people to have better lives for themselves and their families in a land of ice and snow, where football is called soccer, and the national dish is poutine, not jollof rice. I am sure his parents would have said, yeah, when a woman walks on Mars. Well, friends, they got Tonka toys on Mars, but we are very blessed to have a Nigerian association in Sudbury. And I'm sure Gerry would be the first to say it isn't him by himself. That very many thinking heads and working hands and feeling hearts made this association possible. That we work together. And although we sometimes have differences, we have more similarities. And for complete disclosure, I am old and decrepit. So I don't mind telling you, by the way, friends, that when I grew up, I got spanked regularly, all right? No question about it. My brother and I always hoped we were wearing corduroy pants, because if you get spanked in corduroy pants, you can't feel it. Just so you know, all right? And my brother and I also we should have got twice the spankings we got, but the parents never did it to be mean. Our parents did it because they loved us and wanted us to grow up to be good people. So there's nothing wrong with good parenting, for the record.
Correct.
Well, let's go back to Mike Foligno. Mike Foligno is one of the best Sudbury products. For those of you that don't know Mike Foligno, he played in the National Hockey League, he played for the Detroit Red Wings, he played for the Buffalo Sabres, and he played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's got two sons that you might have heard of, Marcus and Nick, and they both play in the National Hockey League right now. But Mike's favorite story is about a guy that's driving his car way too fast, and he drives his car off the road and gets stuck in a ditch. He gets in the ditch, he can't get his car out. He gets out of his car, goes to a nearby farm, and he knocks on the door. Old farmer opens up the door, and the young man says, sir, I just ran my car off the road, I'm stuck, could you give me a pull? Old farmer says, I'm really sorry, I sold all my farming. I go, oh, just a minute, I got my old workhorse buddy. Maybe we could tie him up to your car and pull him out of the ditch. He said, I'll try anything. So with that, the old farmer went down to his barn, took this big workhorse, brought him out to the ditch, tied him up to the bumper, and then the old guy looked at the horse and said, okay, Coco, pull. And nothing happened. But that man thought that horse's name was Buddy, but the old guy just said Coco. And with that, the old guy looked up at that horse again and said, okay, Barney, pull. Horse didn't do anything. But the young man thought, I thought that horse's name was Buddy, but the old guy just said Barney. And with that, the old guy looked up at that horse and he said, okay, Buddy, pull. And with that, that horse pulled that car right out of the ditch, put it right on the road. The young man ran over to thank the farmer, thank you, but I gotta tell you, I was worried about you a little bit. Maybe you were mad, who knows? But the fact of the matter is that I thought that horse's name was Buddy, but you said Coco, and you said Barney. And the old farmer said, oh no, let me apologize, young man. I should have told you, old Buddy here is blind. And if he thought he was doing all the work himself, he wouldn't have tried at all. You and I both know the Nigerian Association needs buddies. Buddies internally. Buddies like your MCs. Buddies like your president. Buddies like your executive that have built this association literally from nothing. In my office, when Gerry and I talked about, so are you going to get incorporated? Are we going to get a CRA number? Are we going to be able to write receipts out? Buddies that are sitting at these tables. St. Vincent de Paul, buddies, all right? Better Beginnings, buddies. School board, buddies. Police, buddies. do you understand that we're all working together? And working together does definitely celebrate diversity. And diversity is a strength, as you know, of our community and of our country, Brian. And that's what you bring tonight. And I got to tell you, I am proud to call myself a brother to my Nigerian family. Maybe the folks that are sitting in the front tables are not aware, but I have a Nigerian name, which some of you do know, because you made a special presentation to me. And my Nigerian name is Ankani. Ankani, thank you very much. Jump in anytime you want, all right? There's no problem with that. But for the benefit of the people that don't know or don't have a Nigerian name, do we know what that Nigerian name means? The brave one, the chosen one, the desired one. I love my Nigerian name. My Nigerian name has a lot more pizzazz than my Irish name. My Irish name is Gerry. It means a guy that likes mashed potatoes. So on that basis, I am really happy to have a Nigerian name, but hang on to this for a second. Not only do I have a Nigerian name, but in fact, what was it, Gerry, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that you came and decided that my Canadian clothes are really boring, much like my Canadian name. So Gerry said, listen, we want to surprise them. He said, we want to have a surprise when we're giving a speech tonight. I said, sure, why not? I spent 3.5 years in court with the team, so please don't start taking this up. So, So I love my name and I love my clothes, and I love the fact that the National Nigerian coat of arms, in fact, has an eagle in the coat of arms. I'm sure you're all aware that the eagle is in fact the national bird of Nigeria. I told them Irish people have fat heads from eating so many mashed potatoes. He said it would fit, and it does. Thank you, Gerry. So there's the eagle. The eagle is the national bird of Nigeria. The eagle is also the bird that symbolizes the spirit of my family. When my mother got a diagnosis of 4th stage malignant melanoma, she adopted the eagle as her symbol of journey through that very dreaded disease. My mother taught me 3 lessons that I want to share with you tonight that I suggest to you is very appropriate for the Nigerian Association as it was for the Lougheed family. The first lesson is, you're likely all aware, the eagle is the only bird that flies into the storms. All other birds fly away from the storms. When you came from Nigeria to Canada, and when Gerry, you've talked about some storms tonight, you don't fly away. You fly into the storms. Storms of immigration, storms of housing, storms of employment, storms of accreditation. In fact, my friendship with the Nigerian community as friends in a fellowship came from the storm of tragedy when Uchi's 3 children were killed in that accident. And you and I walked on that very cold January night, shoulder to shoulder in solidarity in that season of sorrow. We did not fly away from that storm. Eagles carry their young on their wings. This association carries its members on its wings, culturally, socially, but also community. And Gerry, you never have to confuse the fact of the matter. You are appreciated because this association has made donations to the food bank. You have supported the schools, festivals. You help carry our community. And thirdly, the fact of the matter is that the eagle very much has to understand as it carries people on its wings, it does sometimes have to change. You may not be aware, but the eagle is the longest living bird. It can live 70 years. But at the age 40, it's got to make a decision. See, at age 40, its talons get real stiff, and it can't get any prey, and that's what it eats. And its beak becomes crooked and bent, and its feathers becomes matted and heavy, and it can't fly very well. So it has to make a decision. It's going to die, or it's going to have change. And you know what this eagle does? It flies on the top of a mountain. Maybe that mountain is called Sudbury, and it gets in a nest. And what it does in that nest, it takes that beak and it pounds it against a rock and knocks its beak out. And then it waits for a new beak to grow back in. And then it plucks out its talons and pulls out the talons and waits for new talons to grow in. And then it pulls out its feathers and waits for new feathers to grow in. It takes 5 months, 150 days later, this eagle has a new beak, new talons, and new feathers, and it has its flight for another 30 years. Why? Because the eagle knew it had to change. It had to change the beak. It had to change the talons. It had to change the feathers. And if I asked you, what's the success of the Nigerian Association, is that you have taken change and used it as opportunities to grow and to succeed. The Nigerian eagle has learned well how to, in fact, fly in the skies of Canada. And not just fly, but you soar in those skies. And God bless you for that. And lastly, the eagle. Our indigenous friends believe that the eagle flies the furthest and soars the highest. What does that mean? It means it celebrates the superlative. That's what it means. It is at best. And I don't mean best in a sporting way. I mean best effort. That this association and this community gives its best efforts to celebrate the best possible quality of living. Remember the stupid story about the little plane that's flying along? It's got 3 passengers. It's got a little Boy Scout, be prepared. It's got a retired clergy. And it's got the man that thinks he's the smartest guy in the world. His last name could be Musk, but we won't talk about that right now. Right? And they're flying along, and all of a sudden the pilot comes on and says, "Hey, bad news! The engines have died. Worse news, we only got 3 parachutes. And I'm a young pilot with a young family. I got to take a parachute." And the pilot jumps out of the plane, and that leaves that Boy Scout. That leaves that old retired minister, and that leaves the smartest man in the world. The smartest man in the world says, "Hey, I'm the smartest man in the world. I must have a parachute." He puts his arms through the shoulders and jumps out of the plane. The old retired minister says, "Son, you take that last parachute. I'm an old man. I've tried to follow God's ways. I'm ready to meet my Maker." Little Boy Scout looks back at him and says, "Reverend, don't worry. There's a parachute for both of us. The smartest guy in the world just jumped out wearing my knapsack." And I will tell you tonight in my concluding comments, friends, it's not about being the smartest. It's not about being the fastest. It's not about being the strongest. You know what it's about? It's about caring. And it's about sharing. And it's about loving. And that's what this association is about. And that's the strength of this association. And that's the strength of Sudbury. And that's the strength of Canada. You want to inspire some Canadians, Gerry? Every time you get up, say, by the way, guess what the Nigerian motto is? What is it? Unity, faith, peace, and progress. Boy, there's a lot of people in Canada that can learn those 4 words if you ask me, all right? The people that want to divide us, the people that want to hold us back, you must lead by example and say, whoa, I've got something to share from Nigeria. I got 4 words that will make a stronger Canada. And you do. So how do I end this? I end this by telling you, because I am old and decrepit, the fact of the matter is, once upon a time, I was the honorary chair for the Special Olympics for Canada that was held in Sudbury. You were there, that's right. And the fact of the matter is all of Canada came to the Sudbury Arena for the Special Olympics. And I had to give a speech, as I am giving tonight, and so I researched Special Olympics. And I found out that they'd had a competition in Seattle. And the Americans called it the 100-yard dash. You and I call it meters. But there were 10 contestants, and they were all lined up, and the gun went, and the Special Olympians started running down the track. But one boy tripped, and he fell down. And he tried to get up, and he fell down again, and he couldn't get up. And then he started to cry. And the other 9 that were running the race heard him crying, and they turned around and saw him on the track. And they came back and they all got around him. A girl with Down syndrome gave him a kiss and said, my mom says this makes things better. And they picked him up and they dusted off his t-shirt and shorts, and then the miracle happened. All 10 of them linked arms and they walked down the track over the finish line. And everybody in that stadium stood up and gave them a standing ovation because they saw what true teamwork and sportsmanship is all about. I say to you tonight, that we need to link arms with thinking heads and working hands and feeling hearts as brothers and sisters, Canadian and Nigerian, to always run the races of life well and to make Sudbury soar like an eagle. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so much for that powerful speech. I'm so glad that my sleepless nights last night didn't go in vain. I'm gonna leave this hall with so much more knowledge from what I had before this program started. So there was one thing you said, it sunk into my mind. You said from sperm to worms. Coming from you, it sunk into my mind. I'm going to be using the phrase from now on. And then you mentioned Mike Foligno. I remember back in Nigeria, if I see Nigeria wins gold, I know the sport is soccer. Yeah. But here in Canada, if I see Canada wins gold, I know it's hockey. Yeah. Everybody plays hockey here, right? Thank you very much for the speech.
Thank you.
I said we are good hosts and good guests. He came and gave us this, so it should not go
empty-handed.
You know how they know we are going to retaliate.
Yeah.
We are going to retaliate to people. That's the general balance for you. We are going to this is a new award. We will continue to do it periodically. It's going to be for any individual that has supported us in so many ways. Can you imagine where we give someone Nigeria and someone told me, you just make him chief. It's just a chief now. Now, we actually wanted this award to come last, but from content of his address, we don't have to wait. Nigerians, can we all rise?
It's standing.
Stand up. Nigerians.
Nigerians, please.
Please stand up. Thank you. Stand up. Boros, please. Vivian, Genevieve, stand up.
Sister Mary should be a Nigerian. Sister Mary.
Don't worry, it's pregnant. Pastor Steve, don't worry, maybe next time. Now, this award is an allyship award that is a friend of any Nigeria in Greater Sudbury and in Canada. For our association, is going to be the highest any non-Nigerian can actually have. On behalf of Nigerians in Greater Sudbury, in fact, Nigerians all over the world, Nigerian Community Association of Greater Sudbury hereby present this to you, award of allyship. Let me read the content. The Nigerian Community Association of Greater Sudbury is happy to bestow on you the highest honor strictly reserved to one worthy ally of Nigerians in Canada. Welcome, Chief Gerry Lougheed, Jahala of Nigeria.
So we have over 371. Please keep standing. 1 minute. Over 371 ethnic groups in Nigeria, but we're going to say thank you in the 3 major tribes of Nigeria. So we start. There are 3 major tribes: Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo. So we're going to say thank you first in Yoruba, then second in Hausa, and then third in Igbo. So thank you in Yoruba. Thank you in Hausa. Thank you in Igbo. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together and have a seat.